We'll call the planning commission meeting to order. We have a quorum. Item number 3 on our agenda, oath of office for new planning commission terms. Paulette, you're gonna assist with that?
Yeah, you guys are gonna read them. I have them all mostly filled out for you. You guys get to sign your name.
Okay.
And then I can take care of the rest.
Thank you.
And you guys can read them in unison.
All right. We state our own names, right? I, Josh McDonald,
Hi, Patty Heeg.
I, Adam Miller, having
Having
been elected or appointed to the office of Planning Commission, but have not yet entered upon the duties thereof, swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin, and will faithfully discharge the duties of said office to the best of my ability. So help me God.
And then you guys just need to sign. Perfect.
Thank you.
thank you. Welcome aboard, Patty.
The only one I haven't met is, your name was Angie. Nice to meet you, Angie.
All right, item number 4, any public comment? All right, do we get a chance to look at the minutes for April 9th?
I found nothing. If anybody else hasn't found any additions or corrections, I would make a motion to approve.
Motion by Dan to approve the April 9th minutes as written. I'll second the motion. Dan. Seconded by Rob. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Alright, item number 6, certified survey map for Mark Perky, parcel 1809-7K. Lots are zoned highway commercial, there's no minimum lot size in this district, 75 feet of access off the main road is required. Looks like this outlot is where a billboard is.
Yes,
Okay.
I have access I have an easement, certified easement attached to that property from the furniture place to use that driveway or my other driveway.
Okay.
But the sign company wanted easier access in, so.
All right, and that easement or access is off of the south of this?
Yeah, it'd be south end. I owned half the driveway, and I turned the driveway over to him, so he'd have the whole driveway, and then he gave me the easement
Okay.
to help him and help me, so,
I was wondering why that one stake was behind
yeah.
on the driveway.
Yeah, he wanted the whole driveway, and I told him the only way I'd do that is to get an easement, so I had 2 exits in. But it's a separate property for me because the sign income comes to that property.
Laura, do you have anything you want to
Say?
point out or say
Yeah.
about the outlet?
Yes, we don't currently have a definition for outlot in our zoning. So I would like to add the definition that I put on the bottom to our zoning ordinance.
Okay.
So that we know what an outlot is instead of going in to look it up.
Would that be, I see there's some verbiage here. Would that be something that we could add to item number 9 and take care of that tonight? We are finalizing our zoning
Yeah,
ordinance.
I
yeah,
think that's brilliant.
So we could insert that
yeah,
during item 9.
I can do that.
Okay.
In my experience, outlots are very common and a lot of times shared amongst any group of landowners, sometimes whether it's an association or not, or whether it's just a covenant protected area or not, but I mean, it's something we definitely should have a definition for in our.
I have an outlet lot in front of Home Depot.
Okay.
I had.
And you said that was an easement, does that easement is recorded with the
It's
county,
recorded.
right?
It just got recorded.
Okay.
Matter of
How
fact,
long ago was that it was
I
recorded?
have a copy of it here.
Okay,
It got recorded about 2 weeks ago,
okay. Yeah, I don't know how often you have to do that.
but I do have a copy from the attorney here.
There's some places in town that have some easements, but they're not recorded at the county, so it's a
Yeah.
verbal handshake, and those
Right.
go just fine until
Yeah.
they don't get along anymore. So I wanted to make sure that was recorded. All right, anybody have any questions on this CSM? If not, I'd entertain a motion to recommend approval of the town board.
I'll be happy to make that motion to recommend approval to the town board of this CSM for this outlot parcel 1800097K.
Motion by Adam, second by Angie, all in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Josh, just for your knowledge, I did put the recorded document number on the agenda for the town board.
Okay, sounds good, thank you.
Sure.
All right, item number 7, portable trailer signage, Mike Zerflu.
Good evening.
Hi.
Oh,
So, Laura, when did the new code take effect again, Lorelei?
I don't know, it's been here forever. I'll have to.
So I've had the trailers out there. Here's the titles. I used to have 5 of them. I think I have 4 now. I don't know if anybody wants to see the titles. I bought these in 2008,
okay.
and they've been there on and off since then. And apparently somebody complained, and you know, Lorelei asked if I had proof that they've been there. I mean, I'll take a lie detector test. I mean, you guys have probably seen them too. They've been there since 2008. Sometimes there's been 2 or 3 of them. I don't have any intent really to have more than 1 there. I don't know what to say other than the fact that they're used for customers, and they're also used to nonprofits that, you know, the churches and different things like that. I've used them over the years. And, you know, I think Perko, I don't know if you know, it's a beautiful park. We've done nothing but improve it since we've been there. I don't think it looks bad there, but I understand if somebody complains, you have to deal with it. Like, if I have complaints of a tenant or somebody's letting their dog loose or something, you have to deal with it. And I'm asking it to be allowed to stay there because it's definitely been there since 2008.
Okay, and you're absolutely right. I mean, if we ignored the complaints, then, you know, we're not doing our job, so.
I just had somebody complain about a dog and we're running loose, and then called that person. They're saying this other person's cat's running loose, so I just got to deal with it.
And we've dealt with other,
I'm sorry, I have my phone off, but it's ringing in my hearing aid. I'll turn it totally off. Sorry.
It's okay.
Just my wife, nothing important. Don't tell her I said that.
Let the minutes reflect.
No, please don't. So,
yeah, we've had other issues with trailers with signage on it
sure.
in the town, and, you know, we've required them to remove them or move them off the highway, and, you know, that.
But I think talking to Lorelei, if it was there before the ordinance, or if you call it ordinance, or what do you?
No, if a sign was there, but that is not a sign, that's a trailer. And you actually have 3 signs, if you're calling that a sign. You have Perko sign, and then you have the reader board, and then you have the trailer.
Okay.
So that's 3 signs. And if a permanent, and that's the verbiage out here, if a permanent sign had been there prior to the ordinance effective date, then it would be allowed.
So what does our ordinance say about the mobile sign?
We don't, allow them but for 30 days unless they're,
And it's considered a temporary sign,
yeah,
correct?
portable signs, 30-day limit per display, limited to one display per 90 days, shall be displayed more than 3 times a year. But his reader board would be considered a permanent sign because it's permanently mounted, so it's not a portable sign. The trailer is prohibited according to our ordinance.
So when was the ordinance? When did that go into effect?
First time,
That's back on the sign ordinance, isn't it?
2014.
So that's what I mean, I would think I would be
But-
grandfathered in, but
But that's not a sign, Mike. That's what I keep telling you. That is a trailer. A sign is something that is permanent.
sure, and what I'm saying, I'm not here to argue. I'm here to say that it's been there since 2008, and now all of a sudden it's a problem.
Well,
17 years later.
but we have been addressing the sign issue throughout the community. That's why Tritz's semi and his sign is no longer there. Because we are addressing those things that have been against our ordinance that, you know, I don't want to use the word cleaning up because that's not at all what I mean, but we are
I
trying to
can't hear that
enforce
good,
them.
I'm sorry, even with hearing.
We are looking at this main drag in other areas and trying to bring the businesses up to what our
Sure.
ordinance state. That's why the one down here, Tris finally had to remove after years of back and forth. And I think yours had been addressed and there was other signs that had to be addressed. It's something that we had
And it's
been working on.
To be fair, it's ongoing. I mean, signs are popping up on properties and I have to go out and talk to the people or,
Both permanent signs and portable signs.
yes,
I mean,
yeah,
not just trailers, you know?
yeah.
Sure.
Is there any place on the, because basically those trailers, what you're saying, are just stay there until they're needed, correct?
Correct.
So they're job trailers?
Well, they're more for like if you're buying, selling your house and moving into another house to use it for that. And again, we've had the Family Resource Center, we've had like Assumption High School has used it for storing fireworks while they have a fireworks stand, and other churches, different things like that have used them throughout the years. They get a fair amount of use.
Which is all good.
Yeah.
I hope that continues, but is there any place on the property that they could be stored other than like out at the road?
Not, I mean, could we store them in the middle on top of like the septic areas, which I don't think would affect the septic, but it would stick out like a sore thumb. I have 62 tenants in there, and I think all 62 pretty much would complain. There's just the front. As a matter of fact, we're looking at relocating our dumpsters in a different spot because our goal is to repave all of Perco, and I hope in 2027, but with prices going up, it might be 2028. So we're relooking where we're going to locate that when that stuff happens, and that's going to probably be between the clubhouse and the front house. There's an area there is what I'm thinking that'll look good, and we can put a fence around it. So there's really not area there. I do have, like there's 2 of them in use right now, other places that people have, and we have one at our shop over on Bowles Avenue right now, so.
Okay.
But, you know, and I hear what you're saying, I'm certainly not asking, I don't want to be getting a favor. I mean, I understand, you know, and I'm not picking on Freedom Carpet, you know, but they've got granite out there that it doesn't say a sign on it, but it's obvious they're trying to sell granite there. And again, I want to be clear for the record, don't put down my wife on that. But, you know, that's a form of a sign by just being out there. And again, I'm not complaining, I want to be clear, but like, I don't even know what it's called anymore, Country Sports, or matter of fact, we just rented a power wheelbarrow from that rental place. I mean, those are all, you could look at them as a sign. I didn't even know they had a power wheelbarrow until we were driving by one day, and they have I don't know if they have backhoes, but skid steers and all that stuff. And again, I'm not complaining. You guys, I don't want your job. You guys got a tough job. But I'm just asking that this has been there since 2008. And if I would ever get a new trailer, which I don't ever plan on doing at this point in my career, I'm just asking that to be allowed to be there. So, because I feel it was grandfathered in. So,
Lorelei, didn't we address this quite a few years ago, Patty, you might remember, I mean, when you and I were on the board, didn't we address this same problem?
Yeah. I mean, a business is a business and they have their products or like you were saying, Freedom Carpet, that's a business. You're asking to have your trailer, which is Zerflu Realty, which that's not where the business is.
It is
correct?
there now. But in fairness, we just, full disclosure, it was December we moved out there, our office.
Is that registered with the town?
Huh?
Do you have a business and everything of that registered with the town?
It's just an office that's been there, and we,
If it's a business though,
It's still a
it has to be
business.
registered. If it's a business, it has to be registered. And so you're operating two businesses out of Perco? You're operating Perco and Zerflu Realty?
well, I guess you could say it that way. It's our office,
Yeah.
It's a small
Yeah,
office.
it's not registered with the town.
Okay, well, I guess I'll have to do that.
I guess when I look at this, I was looking at it exactly how Ms. Hegan stated that the trailer is for Zerflu, it's not for Perco. And our zoning directly states that these types of things cannot be used as advertising. So it is against our zoning.
Even if it was the located business
Even if it was
being on a
located
trailer
business, it would be
and
against zoning.
using something not permanent as a sign goes against the sign ordinance is the point there. And that's, I mean, the sign ordinance came together before my time on the plan commission, but in the time I've been on the plan commission, we have wrestled with a number of different signs that are non-conforming, and we've talked about strategies for allowing some creative signs that maybe don't conform, because we want really nice signs, especially along that 13 corridor. We want businesses to come up with really nice ways to market their brand, their product. We don't want to have every sign be a little cookie cutter design, but at the same time, the portable trailer and vehicle signs are something that are they're just not, there's no allowance for them in the current ordinance.
And there's no grandfathered in because the ordinance was wrote in, whatever she said, 2014, and it's been there since 2008.
And that could even be argued if that trailer sat there since 2007 or whatever, but they come and go. I mean, they're once it would leave that spot, it technically wouldn't be grandfathered anyway, you know? And, I mean, I don't know any other way to word it other than we don't let anybody else, so.
So then, but you said with the business, because Zerflu Realty is there now, so are you saying it still can't be there even with Zerflu Realty being there? I mean, you look
Correct,
at, like I said, the rental place, they have all their stuff out.
The ordinance that we have states you can't use semis and trailers as your signage.
Okay.
That's parked out. Is that the correct wording, Lorelei, that we have?
So if I take the advertising off, it can stay there.
That's
Yeah,
essentially, yeah, you can park trailers wherever you want.
It's got to have
Okay.
current plate.
I mean,
So all I have to do is,
Yeah, it has to have current plates. I mean, that's
so all I have to do is, so if I get theoretically, if I get a
clear banner, that's just white or
What's
just
that?
red. If you put a banner around
banner
it,
over
that's
it, and then
clear.
when it's moved, we take the banner down and put it back up when it's there.
that would be,
Where'd you find
I
that?
guess that's fine,
that would
just
be in compliance.
as long as there's nothing on that banner, you know.
Yeah, just be
But Mike,
covering up Zerflu Realty.
Sign ordinance?
you also have another standing sign there. And
I
you-
can't, sorry, Mike.
You also have another sign here that I don't have a permit for.
That's been there before I bought Perco. That's been there
It
since,
doesn't look like it, but,
it's definitely Heinrich's, I mean, I don't know if Heinrich's put it there, but
but you're
we
advertising
put this one up, Lorelei, this one we put up.
this one.
Yes, that one we put up, but that's been there. There was something on top, I can't remember. Heinrich's used to sell,
That thing was in here.
yeah, I don't know what was up on top, but at one point I put Zerflu Realty.
So
up
you
there.
already got two signs on the property and then, yeah.
So I just need to cover up Zerflu Realty on that.
Cover up everything that says you have anything to
Okay.
do with your business. Just cover it up, the whole
Okay.
trailer. I'll be fine with that.
Okay,
But he also.
what, the one thing I would ask for, if I can have till, I'll either move it and bring it back with that off of there, but if I could please have till June 1st. We have my daughter's getting married next Saturday, but I'll either get it moved by then or get it covered up by then.
Yeah, as long as we see,
Okay,
right, as long as there's progress that's made, as
all right,
long as we're not ignored, I guess we're fine,
What-
you know.
sounds good.
With the section on.
Thank you very much.
Thank
I
you.
do have, I want to compliment, I commend you guys for saying the Pledge of Allegiance before the meeting. I do, really do. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Updated in February.
You go right here. Sorry, I didn't take you.
Okay, item number 8. Town building updates. So I apologize, I don't check my emails as much as I should. Did anybody say that they wanted a paper copy before today's meeting?
No.
Okay, perfect. Raise your hand if you don't have a paper copy of the most current update.
Thank you.
Got any extras, Josh?
We actually do.
Very
Lorelai, you got some in the mail. Did you have one?
I just let her use mine.
April 29th.
Well, we got, I think we asked for,
5, he gave us 5, right?
I think we asked for,
Well, if it comes with one-
he sent like 3 more than he needed to.
Yeah.
So,
You asked for 5?
Patty can use one too.
thank you.
Is that considered a view?
Did everybody else get one of these?
Trailers.
Yeah, we handed a bunch out
Okay.
when he was here that day, and then he was gonna,
Covers
I think we asked for 3 more and he mailed 5, I thought.
Okay.
Buses, trucks.
So everybody has one.
Do you have one of these?
Yep.
Chase?
Alright, so the discussion we wanted to have today was, what to do with the information we have so far, correct?
Yeah, I think, you know, after that Keller meeting, the whole purpose was, they wanted guidance of what our expectations were for the space. That was his exact words I wrote down. They wanted guidance about the expectations for the meeting space.
Well, I think we gotta decide what we're doing with our current building. We have to break this into steps.
I agree.
It's too big to go, we're gonna plan this new building and we gotta know what we're gonna do with what we have. Whether we keep it or get rid of it, we still have to decide.
I guess just how do you wanna tackle this conversation? I mean, I definitely have things I wanna say and I definitely put notes out this time so I can stay on target and keep on track. And I would like to make sure that everybody has the respect of being heard and not being told to be quiet and not speak. So I would ask that as we have these conversations, that whoever is speaking isn't interrupted. And everybody is
Okay, Bill.
listening. Everybody is listening.
Excuse me. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I just stated my statement. That's all I ask of the group, is as we move forward, that we all have the right to be heard in a respectful manner. So whoever wants to kick it off, Josh, you're the chairman, you let us know how you want to do it.
Well, I think anybody that wants to express their opinion can do so. I think, I mean, I've been in most of the meetings with Keller. I think that they have given us quite a bit to work off of so far. They've given us a lot of ideas. Maybe not the numbers that we want or we're asking for, but I think they're getting us in the right direction. We just gotta decide what we wanna do as a town, because if we can't decide what we wanna do, how are they gonna help us at all, you know? So, anybody that has ideas, we can start off.
Like I said, I think we need to decide. The last meeting we had, we were talking about the tin building. We kind of agreed was not in good shape. Now, our big thing is the town hall. I don't see us planning a new building until we decide what's gonna happen to that thing. If we don't, that's the first decision in my book. There's my 2 cents.
Okay?
That's quick and simple.
Yeah,
I will be,
good.
I have 2.5 pages of notes, so bear with me, but I'll be fast. I'll try. And just to clarify, everybody knows that I'm an outspoken person. I don't question things.
Excuse me, would you like me to make copies of that and then you don't have to?
No,
Oh,
I'm good. So just to clarify, everybody knows I'm outspoken and I question things and I ask directions on how did we get here, why did we get here, where are we going? And I do believe that as a plan commission, that is our job, to be asking these questions openly and getting direction from not only our coworkers that we're working with here, but the audience that shows up and the people we speak with in the town, that it is our job to listen and to really sit and do what's in our best interest. I think each and every one of us here at this table should be speaking our opinions and doing it in the best way possible, having open and honest dialogue, because I think our residents in Saratoga deserve it. I think as we progress through the various stages of this building, what we're going to do with it, and I'm specifically talking about the town hall because that's what has been the hang up in the last meeting, that we look at it backwards and forwards and upside down and we decide what's right. To lay it out there, I am not against spending money from the solar array at all to update our facilities here in Saratoga. I think I've gotten the impression from people that they think I'm against it. I'm not. I think we need to be fiscally responsible, though, as we move forward and plan. Because what I see is this idea of what do we want? Because, everybody wants something really nice and something grandiose and maybe a little bit fancy, versus what do we need as a town? And that is where I feel there has been a disconnect, not only with people sharing their ideas, but the disconnect in, some folks are going this way and some folks are going that way, and there hasn't been enough communication in the middle to really decide what is it that we need. So when I look at the town hall, we've talked about refurbishing it, we've talked about building new, we've talked about changing it to cold storage, we've talked about pulling it down, we've talked about a million different things. And what Keller has, challenged us to do is provide them guidance on really what's it going to be used for. So let's step back. What is it going to be used for? If we build something new or if we keep what we have, and once we decide that, what size of building do we need for what we decide we're going to use it for? We had talked, and I'm not going to beat a dead horse. I'm very clear. I got the message. We are not going to let the town hall be rented out. Okay, I'm not going to beat that dead horse. The board is very clear on that. We're not going to rent it out to the community. Okay, good. We're done. At the last Keller meeting, we talked, though, that maybe we'd use it for community events. So I spent the last 30 days doing some research. I, for years, was a Girl Scout leader, and I know people that are Boy Scout leaders. And I thought, would the Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts come out here and use the town hall? Well, I can tell you as a Girl Scout leader, it's not going to happen, because those meetings are held after school in the schools for a reason. So parents don't have to truck their kids back and forth. It's a community area, it's a safe area, it's a neutral area for kids. If they're planning an event, I can tell you, from being a Girl Scout leader, the school lets us use their facilities for free. So when you think of, is that community group going to come out and use our building if we build it? Probably not. So I said, okay, when I was a kid, we used it for 4-H. Saratoga doesn't have a 4-H club anymore. It's not going to be used for that. My husband and I have a snowmobile business, so we're part of the snowmobile club, which of Saratoga is now part of the Kellner Knights. Their meetings are typically held out at Anchor Bay. That's where the fundraisers are held and the different things are held because, well, for adults, it's more of a conducive environment to have a few drinks while you have a meeting. So they're not going to be coming out to the town hall for their meeting or their event. So then I thought, okay, ATV. Where do the ATV group in Saratoga meet? Well, they have a meeting this week out at Tip Up in Kellner, because they can tip a few while they have their meeting, and I don't know where they have their Christmas party, but I can tell you the snowmobile folks have their Christmas party at a place where there's a restaurant and beverages and things like that. So the hall is not going to be used for those community groups. We have the Wakely group. The Wakely group holds their events at Wakely. So it's not a situation to me that if we build it, they will come. It's not that type of facility where we're going to be pulling in community groups to use it. And even if we have the rare occasion for a craft show or something that might want to use it, the Outpost had booked the last 3 out of 7 weekends with different kinds of things. And that's a mile down the road, and it's a really nice facility. So if you build it, will they come? Probably not. So it really comes down to, what are we going to use it for? Well, voting, 4 times a year. We're going to use it for voting. If we use it for town board meetings, we can say 24 times a year for 2 or 3 hours at crack. And we all know that we don't do 2 board meetings every year during the month of the winter. Our meetings, 12 meetings, a couple hours each time. So if you add voting and you add board meetings and commission meetings, we're at 40 days out of the year that we'd be using this building. And, you know, they did reduce the size to 2,100 square feet, but a 2,100 square feet facility that is going to be empty and not used for 325 days out of the year. Do I think we need a space? Yes, I do. I do believe we need a space. But as we talked about the board meetings, we talked about the commission meetings, we talked about having a divider that we can pull and separate that room in half. Well, if we're already separating that room in half for 36 of the 40 days we'd be using it out of the year, do we need a building that big? So I do think we need to look at being fiscally responsible and considering the size of the facility. I did reach out to the public. You know, not many people, just to get a handle on what do you think. I talked to family members, I talked to friends, I talked to my husband's friends that would step over. And I really, believe it or not, tried to bite my tongue and said, you know what, we're looking at new buildings, so what do you think? Every single one said, what about our roads? Without any kind of prompt from me. Every single one, what about our roads? I explained to them, you know, this money is not going to impact you. It's not off your taxes. Kind of explain the whole kind of free money from the solar. They didn't care. There was expletives from some of these people. What the bleepity bleep are we addressing that hall for when it's not even used? I truly believe we need to maybe do a little bit more, I don't know, communication with the public to really see what they want. Because I think, you know, a 2,100 square foot building with $1 million plus a price tag attached to it that's not going to get used 325 days of the year is a super hard sell. And is it financially and fiscally responsible to the town? You know, on top of that, we have the truck shop, and there's already, you know, I've heard people talking, it's too big, it's too little, it's just right. Many communities our size use their municipal building for voting. Maybe we consider a larger conference room and not a hall and use the municipal building for voting. That's used in numerous communities around the state. I did talk to people that were in the voting, that handle the voting here in Saratoga, and full disclosure, one of them was my mother, so just put that out there so nobody's like thinking I'm doing anything crazy. One was my mom. The town hall, they said they could do with half the size for voting. That it's only once every 4 years where it's super busy in there because of presidential election. The rest of the time, you know, I'm thinking, and I even said to my mom, I said, yeah, but you have those things spaced all over the place. So half the time they're there twiddling their thumbs waiting for people to show up. And they're still separating them, the booths, I'm talking the voting booths, for COVID specs. So they definitely said they could crunch them together like they used to. I mean, they're not measuring for COVID, but they're separating them very far apart. They could use half of the amount that they are using for COVID. I had 2 people in particular bring up the EMT situation. They brought up roads, and 2 people brought up the EMT. And I don't know what's going on with that, but they're more interested in receiving money to update their equipment than they are getting a meeting office. That's been thrown out there. That was through third person. Don't know if it's, you know, I can't say that it came from the horse's mouth type of thing, but that might be something we want to look into. Maybe some of that money goes to the EMTs instead. So it really goes back, I hope this conversation, as we discuss here tonight, really focuses on not what we want, in this big grandiose picture, but what do we need for what we are going to be using it for. And that's all I need to say.
It wasn't so long.
I tried to make it quick.
So your synopsis of what you just said is we tear the old building down.
If probably, yeah, and not build a new one. Mine would be that if we're gonna build a truck shop over there, and I do support building the truck shop, absolutely, that if we pull it down, I would not build a new one. My thought would be, let's look at maybe building a bigger conference room if that's what we need, and letting the voting go in the municipal building, in the truck shop, when the 4 times out of the year it's needed.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
So with this, you already kind of decided that the shop needs to be replaced.
The
Is that
building.
Public Works building is what we
The
call
Public
it.
Works,
right?
yeah, the
That
Public
needs to
Works
be
building.
updated
The
and
truck
be-
shop is in very poor shape.
Yeah, okay. Just,
I mean,
okay,
bathrooms aren't
right.
good.
So are you looking to tear that down and rebuild a whole brand new building?
One of the options was that, yes. Another option was keeping that building just for cold storage, like to
Yes.
store stuff that we would normally have outside.
Okay,
Keep that in there.
from the public works?
From
Yeah.
Public Works.
And then build another building behind it, or?
Right,
Or that's what you're trying to figure out?
Somewhere,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay, all right,
And
sounds
we,
good.
and we also talked a bit about whether or not, there's also additional office space and admin space and file storage that I think there are some needs there. And we talked about that, whether we add on to this building, because this is a very nice building. And there's some room, I think, potentially that we talked about some of that in some of the planning. And I wasn't at the last meeting, so I can't speak to how much of that was kind of modified or whatever. But in Keller's attempt to identify what we needed for space, they asked a lot of questions about what we need. They were very specific, and it was pretty intentional. So some of those space requirements and some of the admin space, I think, are probably pretty accurate to the needs of the town.
Okay.
But I think what you explained is really well thought out and really important, because this is going to end up being, no matter what you build these days, it ends up being very pricey.
Of course.
And it is really, enlightening is maybe not the right word, but it's just really thought-provoking to hear about the number of days of not being used and to spend the kind of money it takes to build a facility that big. If I were looking at it from a business purpose or a business cause, I wouldn't advise, that would be something if a customer of mine was saying, hey, this is what I'm thinking about doing, and they identified their usage and they identified the expense, the exposure there, it wouldn't make financial sense. So that's, you kind of did, it struck a chord with me from that perspective as I drew a parallel there. But the need for an improved public workspace, aligns with the need for the roads and things being, that's how we're going to get there ultimately in this town, is in order to take care of the roads as best we can and preserve those, we're going to need the equipment to do so. We're going to need to take care of that equipment. We're going to need to have a crew that feels comfortable and happy working in the space they're working in, so they can take pride in what they're doing. So I think we are whittling down some of the needs, and unless somebody from this group objects, I'm very much in favor of a new public works building. I think that has to be one of the things that comes out of this project. And I think the
With a
solar money is a great way to do it.
meeting room, like Grand Rapids has a room connected to their public works. Because you're never gonna rent, to take that building down and build a new one, because we're not gonna rent it, and we've went through that when we were on the board. There's just too many liabilities, too many what ifs, and, so it's not like you have to build something where you can rent it for weddings or anniversary, you're not gonna do that. So,
And did we get clear numbers on, do we have a clear number on what the tear down of that
About
facility?
100,000.
Yeah, they said 100 and after asphalt, I think they said 150 to 200.
Okay, and then comparing that to the ongoing annual expense, I mean, like even Sacred Heart Parish had to make that tough decision
Yeah.
with the historical school building, that the ongoing cost of just having it stand there unused
Does that building
didn't
have
make.
asbestos?
Yes,
Yeah, so you have to abate it first, then, yeah. That's what got expensive with Sacred Heart.
I'd like to address a couple things.
Yeah.
So, yes, it has asbestos, and the cost of renovating it, according to Keller, was what, 600 to 800,000?
600 to 900.
6 to 900, and the cost of building just the hall space was close to 1 million. So you're 100,000 off there. So remodeling an old existing building versus building new and having no maintenance for all these years, I don't know. Is that something that we want to do? Also, as far as the roads are concerned, I spend $700,000 a year on roads. And the way that we got that money is by cutting the board meetings, cutting the extra committees, cutting. And we are doing that. Do we want to spend more than $700,000 a year? I'd like to spend every drop that comes into this town into roads. I'm a civil engineer, who wouldn't? But we have to be, again, responsible for all of our infrastructure, not just the roads. And I realize that. And I also realize this, we'll go to a referendum. No matter what we do, we'll have to take it to the people and let them decide. But at the same token, now is the time that the impact to our citizens would be very negligible. And I'm trying my best. That I went and spoke to a bank, and I'm trying to keep it under 75% of what I know is coming in. So that would leave approximately 50,000 a cushion a year. And this would be a 20-year loan. And for 10 years, then we get the full amount, which we could turn back into whatever we needed at the time. But I'm trying to do the financial part on the other side, so I know that when this comes in and somebody says, we want to remodel this or we want to build this, that we have the ability to do that. So I keep checking to see financially if that's a foreseeable thing. As you know, the money from the solar doesn't come in until 2029. So we don't have to be in a hurry to do anything. But I want us to be thinking this has to be something we got to think about now, because the cost of building goes up approximately on a project like this, whatever we decide to do, about $200,000 a year. So if we're going to do something, I don't want to put it off until 2041. The other thing about community events, I think, Christy, you were the one who actually brought that up, to have community event. And I thought it was a great idea, I really did, but you're right. I kind of agree with you that a lot of these places wouldn't do it. Now, the UTV club would, because when they go places, they have to spend money in order to go there. And a lot of the UTV drivers are older and they don't drink. So they would probably utilize it if it was available, but that's a very small group of people. The EMTs, I've had Kathy Palm every week in my office, and she is the head of the EMTs. She is right on board with everything. And she is in agreement that whatever we do, that she will be kept in the loop. Ultimately, we're really keeping her as much in the loop as possible because we have some issues with Wisconsin Rapids and our ambulance service, and we need to have the ability in 4 years to do something either drastic or not. So we don't know how it's going to play out. So we are playing both sides of the fence. Realistically, I would like the EMTs to have a separate building altogether, so that if it does come to such a conclusion that we have to buy into a group, that we have something to buy in with. I know that most people aren't going to understand that, but instead of buying our services from the city of Wisconsin Rapids, there's talk that a lot of communities would join into a group, and in order to get into that group, to lessen your yearly payment of ambulance service, you would have a buy-in, which would be either an ambulance, personnel, a building. And so if it's separate, it just makes things cleaner for tax purposes. So Kathy and I have been very close in this. She was in office yesterday, as a matter of fact. So whoever is voicing their concerns, have them talk to Kathy because she's right on board. And voting in the municipal building, that's the very first thing I brought up because we did it in Plover and it worked out really well. However, if you ever been to Plover, all the offices, the public works and everything are right in the same building and there's firewalls. So the firewalls help, and there's a lot of things that come into play with this if we do that. And Keller kind of talked us out of that. I guess I can't reiterate why because I don't remember. But there were several concerns, but I can't remember what it was.
You're turning a non-public place into a public place at that point, which changes the requirements for fire code and
Oh
stuff
yeah,
like that.
yeah, that was one of them.
So
But I don't think that was as big a deal as our insurance company. I think that was the biggest deal.
there was
But
the insurance, and then I think there was also the matter of fire suppression systems, which will
oh yeah, that's true.
change and that could
Yeah.
make it so that we had to have.
But
a
other
lot of
communities,
storage.
do it. So if that is something that, we should decide that would be what we want to do. I think it is doable, but it would probably be an added expense. That's all I can say about that.
I think you have to be careful when you compare demographics. I grew up in Siegel, having worked for the county. I know that township is very close in size to this one. Very poor. You couldn't compare to them at all. You couldn't fit the people that vote here in their garage. So, and then the other thing is you're trying to make a 70-year plan. I don't know what our growth rate is, but that's a very tough thing to do. I drive through this thing once a week. Drive around town thinking, man, I don't know, should we keep it, shouldn't we keep it? What should we do?
Just for reference, our last
Census?
we actually went down by like 43 residents. We're pretty stagnant at the moment.
That's the first thing
We've
I
got
did,
more houses,
actually.
but we're staying fairly level at just over 5,000 residents.
Chase is right. That's the first thing I did. I went back 50 years and the growth has been very, very minimal. And it's an aging growth.
Sure.
I mean-
It is true.
Right, you're getting less families with
Yeah.
6 people in the house and more retired,
Well, families are
two-person
smaller
homes.
nowadays too.
Yeah, and
You
so
know,
that
as you
is
do that,
something to
you're
think about.
lowering it even though you're raising the,
I did a study years back, and the 15 years that I looked at, out of those 15, we only grew like 7,
Yeah.
and we declined the other years, just because there's no new families moving in,
Right.
and the families that are here are disappearing. So.
I don't mean to bring up a bad thing, but I think you guys did it to yourselves by putting 5 acres minimum before you can build a house. I think that was stupid. You stagnated growth. That was stupid.
Oh.
But I'm gonna make another comment. You were wrestling with taking down this building
And not,
and Carl was. Has anybody thought about trying to purchase the property right next to this?
Yeah, we did. We looked at it. To what avail?
Because I've been through this, Greenways, when we had the old Greenway building, I struggled and struggled and struggled to build a new facility. And I felt like I was going off a cliff, trying to project the future of our business. And I put 10 bays on. And it came, people came. We were known for our service, and then I doubled it. I put another 10 bays on. And that was the smartest thing I could do because of the growth of what it would cost to build that facility today from what it cost at the time I built it. And I built a split face block, so it'll be around for 100 years. I think that you're gonna have to do something fairly quickly, and you gotta project your growth. If you don't project your growth now, you're gonna build a facility that's too small 5 years from now, 10 years from now. And then we'll be sitting there scratching our heads, boy, I wish I would have done this bigger. I'm not saying go way big, but I mean, you're gonna have to build a little bigger than what you think you're gonna want.
You know, and to his point, even with the 5 acres, we've had a lot of our land was forestry land. But that's very quickly getting split up into 5 acre, 10 acre, 20 acre plots that are getting houses on them. That, I mean, there were thousands of acres that were never gonna be built on. They're now starting to get built on. And so, even though we have been stagnant for the last 10 years, the building might actually outpace the decline in, you know.
I agree that the
unit
town's
size.
gonna grow. I think I think it might be some time, but yeah, I don't see us getting any smaller.
Well, for anybody who's looked at land, there's nothing available right now. People are snapping it up as soon as it goes on the market.
I get phone calls, yeah.
Yes. We are gonna get back on target, and I thanks for that. I never even thought of
I think
going that way.
I think what Mick's alluding to is he thinks we need more land, but I don't know that he realizes how much land we actually do have. It's not that we don't have placement for the buildings. We actually do, if that's the route we decide to go.
Okay.
I think the determination needs to be, do we want to insulate, add electricity, new plumbing to this building? Do we want to get estimates to see where we really would be? Or do we want to just let it go and keep band-aiding it? Or do we want to tear it down? Or what do we want to do with it? I think that's probably the main thing we got to figure out.
And if it costs 6 to 9 to remodel it, we still have that continued maintenance on an old building as the years go on, where if we go new, we maybe don't have to put so much maintenance into that building for the first 5, 8, whatever years, you know, depending on how well it's built or whatever, you know.
I personally do feel it is more beneficial to build something new than to renovate what we have. I just don't think we need to be so grandiose in the size.
Right.
That is just my.
When you mention size, what are you talking about? Are you talking about the 26, 22 for the administration or the voting?
The number I had, and maybe I misread it, was we're going from what currently is a 2,800 square feet to 2,100 square feet. That's what Keller had stated last meeting.
Specifically for a voting room?
For the voting hall, yeah,
I
the
think-
voting room,
From all of the sketches that he's put out, I think if I can read the number right, it looks like 26, 22 for the voting room.
for some reason I have 2,100 square feet.
I've got that
It's in
number,
here.
I've got that number too, Dan, but the new number, I think in the new book is 2,100. And they
The
based,
latest book I have is from,
they
it's on
based,
page-
yeah,
it's on page 13.
518. Right?
519.
519.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Oh, page 5. So I'm looking at like I'm looking
Voting,
at
right.
spaces and square footage on page 13 of 19.
And he explained to us they come up with the 2,100 because you needed 7 feet per 7 square feet per person. If there was 300 people voting at one time, that adds up to 2,100.
2,100.
And I think that's just broke down a little bit.
What page?
It's there.
I don't, oh, this.
So
these
you're
are
thinking
old
2,100 square feet is too big?
Book that
I
we
think
just got
that's
tonight.
for
Mine's
the use
15.
of, when I look at
Mine's
voting
3.
and
Okay.
if we're using it for voting and just the meetings a couple times a month, yeah, I think 2,100 square feet.
I think that number is a architectural number. He's looking at the possibility of the number of people that are in there and he's designing it for that number. So if you say there can only be a maximum capacity of 100 people in that building, then your numbers are gonna go down. I think he's probably looking at 150 or 200 capacity.
No, it's 300. It's written out.
Does it say 300? So then, okay, then you got 300. Go to 150. Cut it in half and go to 150. You're gonna cut that square footage considerably.
Well, and that's, I think, the conversations that we should be talking about right now. I think
But
that's,
get back to the 4-5 times a year for the voting. Do you want it to be crowded in there, or do you want to have a little elbow space?
when I listened to what my mom had to say.
Yes, over here they spread out, and I think they're very comfortable at spreading out. We walk in there, and you don't have somebody right on your shoulder while you're
I get what
getting
you're
your
saying.
driver's license out. I mean, I haven't seen a line over there for years.
Well, and there's times, you know, especially spring election and things like that, where they said they're there for hours by themselves.
Right, yes.
You know, do I
But we
mind
do
if,
have a very, very good turnout, don't,
Yeah. Oh, I
that's part of
agree.
it. I
I
mean, when
agree.
we're looking at that 70% turnout for an election that nationally is 25.
I don't disagree with any of that, Dan, but when I look at how it was laid out over there, and I brought it up that they were really far spaced apart. And I remember when they used to be next to each other. And if you didn't want to be next to somebody when you voted, you just went a few spaces down. So 4 times a year, is it a big deal that somebody might be a little crowded?
True.
No, I really don't
Yeah.
think it is.
And I think that's what Keller wants us to do
I think so too.
here, is to say, do we want 300 people or do we want 150? Pick a number. That's gonna put your square footage back into line. And he can't read our minds, and he can't see into the future either, any more than we can.
No, I'm glad you brought that point up because it goes back to his comment where he wanted, and like, again, I wrote it down. The guidance is, he wants guidance on what we were gonna use it for, what we needed, and what you're bringing up is exactly my point.
Yes.
Do we need to build something that is going to house 300 people? When's the last time we needed to do that? Well, that was the Capel fight. You know, how long ago? And could something random and crazy happen like that again? Yeah, but before we had the meetings there, we were having them in my basement. We were having them at other people's houses. We were having them at the library. Churches, you know, so.
But we had a big one at the PAC when we knew
Yep.
there was too many people. We just, I mean, if that happens again, we can adjust. I can't.
Yeah.
Right.
I can think
So-
we can adjust to that.
So I don't think we need to build something for 300 people. I really, truly do not.
And that's pretty much why we're here right now today, is to say that, okay, we don't need that big a space, so let's cut it back down to a number that we can live with. I have no clue what it would be, but like I said, cut it in half, or go to 200 or whatever, you know, just.
You could still have girls' spots.
It's really not uncommon with any number of projects to look at these things in phases. And if there's a way to, and I know that any new facility that we delay comes at an added cost in the future, but that also kind of protects you from making a mistake if you implement this and you have it intentionally planned for a phase 2 that could include a larger voting room. In a phase 2, you could intentionally leave the space on site to develop that. We could potentially, during phase 1, leave the existing hall up, but we could focus on the needs that we consider more time sensitive, public works building, and maybe some added admin space in a phase 1. And I'll tell you what that can also do, which is could be a really important point to the town people, is that would allow you to service that capital improvement, the debt that would be required to create that